Hi everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. When you've been with someone for a long time, you start to notice things, little things, subtle changes in the way they act, the way they speak, the way they look at you. Most of the time, it's nothing. People go through phases, right? Stress, work, life, it all takes a toll. But sometimes, those little changes, they mean something. That's what happened to Levi. Levi is the kind of guy who believes in marriage. Not just the wedding vows or the big celebration. He believes in commitment. When he married Hallie, he meant every word. He was faithful, he was supportive, and he never gave her a reason to doubt him. He wasn't perfect, but he tried. And for the longest time, he thought they were solid. However, something about Hallie's behavior hasn't sat right with him lately. It wasn't just one thing. It was a series of small, unsettling changes, things that on their own wouldn't be a big deal. But together, they painted a picture he wasn't sure he wanted to see. It started with her phone. Hallie had always been on it, sure, but now it was different. She was constantly texting, her attention locked on whatever conversation she was having. She'd smile, but the moment Levi walked into the room, the expression would vanish. And then she'd tilt the phone away, pressing the screen against her thigh, as if she didn't want him to see. She never used to do that. Then there was the way she started dressing. It wasn't that Levi didn't appreciate the effort. He did. Hallie had always taken care of herself, but now it was different. New clothes, perfume she hadn't worn in years, lingerie that, oddly enough, never made an appearance in their bedroom. She took extra time getting ready before work, before going out, but when she was home with him, she barely seemed to care. And then came the late nights. Hallie had never been the type to stay out late without telling him exactly where she was going. She was always considerate like that. But suddenly, she had late meetings, extra shifts, girls' nights that, for some reason, never seemed to involve any actual friends Levi knows. At first, Levi didn't question it. He trusted her. He wanted to believe her. But the more it happened, the more vague her explanations became. When he'd ask something simple like, "Where were you?" she'd get defensive. "Why do you care?" "I was working." Or, "God, Levi, why do you always have to ask me a million questions?" He wasn't grilling her. He wasn't interrogating her. He just wanted a straight answer. But instead of easing his concerns, she made him feel like he was the problem for even asking. Then there was the intimacy, or rather, the lack of it. It had been months since Hallie had shown any real interest in him. Every time Levi tried to get close, she pulled away, claiming to be too tired, too busy, not in the mood. The woman who used to wrap herself around him at night now lay on the farthest edge of the bed, facing away. And if he so much as reached for her, she'd flinch, as if his touch was unwanted. Levi wasn't stupid. He knew something was wrong. But the problem was, he had no proof. Maybe he was overthinking. Maybe he was imagining things. The woman he trusted more than anyone might be keeping a secret from him. One evening, Levi sat at the dining table eating. It had been a long day, and all he wanted was a quiet dinner with his wife, a moment to just sit, eat, and pretend for a little while that everything was normal. Across from him, Hallie was scrolling through her phone, barely touching her food. The glow of the screen reflected off her face. Levi watched as her thumbs moved quickly over the screen, typing, deleting, and then typing again. She was texting someone, and whoever it was, they had her full attention. Then, as if remembering she wasn't alone, she set her phone down, exhaled, and looked up at him. "Hey, babe, I was thinking, I want to go out to dinner with a friend from work." Levi's fork stopped midair. His mind immediately latched onto her wording. A friend from work. Not "we're all going out," not a work event, but a friend. A single person. He swallowed, keeping his expression neutral. "Ooh." There was a pause, just a second too long. "Oh, just my coworker, Jason. It's nothing serious." Jason. Levi's grip on his fork tightened. He had heard the name before. Hallie had mentioned him in passing. A guy from work, someone she had to collaborate with on projects. Until now, Levi hadn't thought much of it. But now, every instinct in him screamed otherwise. Before he could respond, she leaned forward, tilting her head slightly, her voice light but pointed. "It's just dinner, Levi. Do you trust me or not?" And there it was. She had framed it perfectly, setting the trap with precision. If he said no, if he pushed back, he would be the controlling husband, the jealous man who didn't trust his wife. But if he said yes, he would be giving her exactly what she wanted, permission to do something that felt undeniably wrong. Levi forced himself to stay calm. "Why do you need to go to dinner with another man? Just the two of you?" Hallie rolled her eyes immediately, her annoyance flashing to the surface. "It's just food, Levi. Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" She didn't wait for him to respond before continuing. "You're so controlling. Can't I have male friends?" Levi exhaled slowly, gripping his fork a little harder. He had been with Hallie long enough to recognize what was happening. She wasn't answering his question. She was deflecting. Instead of explaining why this dinner needed to happen, she was shifting the focus onto him, his supposed jealousy, his supposed insecurity. "I'm not comfortable with it," he said finally, his voice steady. Hallie's expression hardened. "Wow. So I can't even have dinner with a friend without you freaking out? Do you think every guy I talk to wants to sleep with me?" Levi clenched his jaw. That wasn't what he said. That wasn't even close to what he said. "That's not what this is about," he replied. But Hallie wasn't listening. She was already locked into her argument, already playing the part of the wronged wife who just wanted a little freedom. "You're acting crazy, Levi. It's a meal. Are you going to start keeping tabs on everyone I talk to? Should I stop talking to men altogether? Would that make you happy?" Levi let out a slow breath. He had two choices here: engage in this argument, let her twist his words until she turned this into something it wasn't, or shut it down completely. "I said no, Hallie," he said firmly. For a moment, she just stared at him. Then, with a sharp scoff, she shoved her chair back and stood up. "You know what? Forget it. I don't need your permission." And with that, she stormed out of the room, muttering under her breath as she disappeared down the hallway. Levi didn't move. He just sat there, listening to the distant sound of her bedroom door slamming shut. The next few days were cold. Hallie barely spoke to him. When she did, her voice was harsh, filled with irritation. She sighed dramatically whenever he entered the room, as if his presence alone was exhausting her. And then came the comments, passive-aggressive little jabs, disguised as casual conversation. "I never thought I'd marry someone so insecure. It must be exhausting, always being so paranoid. I hope you don't expect me to just sit at home like some obedient housewife." Levi didn't respond to any of it. He just watched. Hallie had always been persuasive, but this time it wasn't persuasion, it was pressure. She didn't ask him once, and let it go. At first, Levi tried to ignore it. He thought if he stayed firm, she'd eventually drop it. But she didn't. Instead, she switched tactics. The cold shoulder started. Then came the accusations. "Do you even respect me?" she asked one night, crossing her arms. "Or, do you just see me as some possession you own?" And the worst one, the one that really got under his skin, real men don't act this insecure. Levi wasn't insecure. He knew that. He had never been the jealous type, and deep down, he was certain that if the roles were reversed, Hallie would have lost her mind. But after weeks of this, it started to wear him down. He was exhausted, tired of fighting, tired of feeling like the bad guy. So one evening, just to end the argument, just to prove to her that he wasn't controlling, he agreed. The moment the words left his mouth, her entire demeanor changed. She brightened up instantly. It was like she had expected him to cave, like she already had plans in motion. And maybe she did. Levi watched her carefully on the day of the dinner. She didn't just pick out an outfit. She spent extra time getting ready, styling her hair, picking the perfect dress. She spritzed on perfume, the expensive one she usually saved for special occasions. She checked herself in the mirror more than once, adjusting, smiling, anticipating. By the time she was ready to leave, she looked excited. That was when it hit him. This wasn't about trust. This was never about trust. This was about her pushing boundaries, testing him, seeing how much she could get away with. This wasn't just dinner. This was something else, something bigger, something that had already started long before she asked for permission. And now, he had given her exactly what she wanted. He had made a mistake. A big one. One night, fate gave him an opportunity. Hallie had left her phone charging while she was in the shower. Normally, she never left it out of her sight. It was always locked, always tucked away in her bag or under her pillow. But this time, she had been careless. Levi hesitated for only a second before grabbing it. He scrolled through her call logs and there it was. The same number over and over. Jason. Text messages? Even worse. She had deleted most of them, but the ones he found were enough. No messages like that should ever exist between a married woman and another man. Levi felt his stomach drop. He wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, he placed it back exactly where he found it. Bursting in with accusations wouldn't help him. No, he needed to be smart. For the next few days, he started connecting the dots. He went through their bank statements, and sure enough, there were frequent unexplained withdrawals from Hallie's account. Fancy restaurants, boutique purchases, hotel stays. She wasn't just sneaking around, she was spending their money on it. Then he started tracking her movements. The more he looked, the more obvious it became. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Levi could have confronted her right then and there. But that wouldn't have been enough. He had spent years building a life with Hallie. If she was going to betray him, she wasn't going to take everything with her. So he started preparing for the fallout. The first thing he did was secure his own financial standing before she could drain their resources. He stopped depositing money into their joint accounts and redirected his future earnings into a separate account under his name alone, one she had no access to. He also documented every transaction she made from their shared funds, knowing that proof of reckless spending on her affair could be valuable later. Instead of making rash, easily traceable financial moves, he consulted a financial advisor to ensure everything he did was legally sound. The second thing he did was gather legal evidence. He started documenting her absences, keeping track of every time she worked late or came home smelling like another man's cologne. He even went a step further. He hired a private investigator. If Hallie thought she was being discreet, she was about to learn the hard way that she wasn't. The third thing he did was the hardest. He was emotionally detached. Instead, he just watched. He observed her like an outsider. And the more he watched, the clearer it became. She wasn't just cheating. She was waiting for the right moment to leave him. And the worst part? She thought she had already won. Hallie became bolder. She stopped pretending. She didn't bother to hide her smiles when texting Jason. She barely acknowledged Levi when she came home. She started dressing up even more, looking radiant before heading out, while Levi sat in silence, knowing exactly what she was doing. Then came the night that erased any lingering doubts. Levi had just stepped out of the bedroom when he heard her in the hallway, speaking softly into her phone. "I can't wait to be with you for real." She was planning her exit. She was planning a future without him. What she didn't know, Levi was already 10 steps ahead. One night, Hallie walks into the house. She drops her purse on the counter, takes off her shoes, and lets out a deep sigh. Levi watches her from the couch, already sensing that something is coming. She's been distant for weeks now, barely speaking to him. Whatever illusion of a marriage they had left was hanging by a thread, and tonight it was about to snap. Without much build-up, she finally says it. "I think we should separate." No hesitation. Just a flat, casual statement. Levi doesn't react right away. He just sits there looking at her, waiting. And when she realizes he's not going to make this easy for her, she shifts her weight and crosses her arms, already preparing for a fight. "Look," she continues, her tone annoyingly neutral. "I just think we've grown apart. I mean, we both know this hasn't been working for a while, right?" Levi, keeping his expression unreadable, asks, "Why now?" Hallie blinks, clearly not expecting him to be so calm about it. "Because I can't keep pretending. I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore." There it is. The classic line. The same excuse cheaters have been using for years to justify their betrayals. Levi had heard it before from friends, from colleagues, even from random people online. And now, his wife was standing in front of him, feeding him the same tired lie. Then, as if to soften the blow, she adds, "I think we should split things fairly. No drama." Levi nearly laughs at that. No drama? He wonders if she actually believes she's in control of this situation. He doesn't argue. Instead, he simply nods and says, "All right." And that's when Hallie makes her biggest mistake. She assumes his quiet acceptance means she's won. The next morning, Hallie wakes up feeling light, almost relieved. She had expected Levi to put up more of a fight, maybe even beg her to stay. Instead, he accepted it. No questions, no resistance. It was almost too easy. Feeling good about herself, she decides to start preparing for her new life. The first thing she does is check their joint bank account. She had assumed there'd be a good amount of money in there. After all, Levi was always responsible with their finances. But the moment she logs in, her stomach drops. The balance is nowhere near what she expected. It's drastically low, almost empty. Panic sets in immediately. She grabs her phone and calls Levi. The moment he answers, she doesn't bother with pleasantries. "Where's the money?" she demands. There's a brief pause before Levi responds, his voice completely calm. "You don't have access to it anymore." Hallie feels like the floor just dropped out from under her. "What do you mean?" "It's our money." "Not anymore." She can hear the quiet satisfaction in his tone, and it makes her chest tighten. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some banking error. Levi did this on purpose. Hallie comes home later, exhausted. But the moment she looks toward the dining table, she stops. Sitting there in plain sight is a large envelope. Thick, heavy, placed neatly at the center, almost like it was waiting for her. Her name is written on the front in bold, precise letters. A cold prickle runs down her spine. Slowly, she walks toward it. She hesitates for a second before peeling it open. The moment she sees the first page, her stomach drops. Her breath comes short and fast as she flips through the documents. Then she sees the attachments. Screenshots, phone records, bank statements. She schemes frantically, hands shaking. There it is, proof of her affair with Jason. The messages, the calls, the hotel bookings, everything. Levi knew. This isn't just a divorce filing. It's a calculated attack. Levi wasn't blindsided. He wasn't hurt and broken as she expected. Hallie thought she had it all figured out. Manipulate her husband into looking the other way, and then walk away on her own terms when she is ready. She thought Jason, the man she had risked everything for, would be there waiting with open arms, ready to build a new life with her. But life doesn't always go the way we plan, especially when we build our plans on deception. One by one, people started finding out the truth as the divorce process began. Levi didn't just sit back and let her control the narrative. He made sure everyone knew exactly what had happened. He had proof, undeniable evidence of her months-long affair, and he wasn't afraid to use it. Their friends found out. Her family found out. Even people at her job heard about it. The image she had carefully built, the loving wife, the responsible woman, was shattered. But the worst part? The man she had given it all up for, Jason, was nowhere to be found. The moment things got messy, Jason distanced himself. He never wanted anything serious. He was just enjoying the thrill, the chase, the stolen moments. A fling was fun, but dealing with a woman who had burned her own life to the ground? That wasn't part of his plan. He didn't want the baggage, the drama, the consequences. And just like that, she lost everything. She had no husband, no lover, no financial security, and no one to turn to. She had traded stability for a fantasy. And now, she was left standing in the wreckage of her own decisions. In the end, she thought she was outsmarting Levi. She thought she could manipulate him into accepting her affair. She thought she could walk away unscathed, with a new life waiting for her. But in the end, she played herself.